Hello and buongiorno from freezing Britain. If you watch the first part of our videos, you'll know that we bought this 1955 Motoguzzi Galetto 192cc. Bought it from Italy, off eBay, unseen. It's just been delivered on the van. And we're going to try and get it running. Keep watching and see if we can. Or are we just going to lose lots of money? So here comes the Galetto. Okay, so this is the 1955 Motoguzzi Galetto, which I've just bought unseen, and it's just been delivered by Michele. And you know, I read a lot nowadays, you know, when you see stuff on eBay or bikes or cars for sale and you see this word survivor a lot, and this is definitely a survivor. So built in 1955, and from the paperwork that I've seen, it came off the road in 1988, so you know, it might have been driven for 30 years, but come on, it's pretty unlikely. But what I like about it is it's completely unrestored, and I've just got a thing about unrestored motorcycles. That's just me. I like them restored as well. And I have restored some in the past, but my current, well, not my current, to be honest, I've been like that for years. My preference is for unrestored stuff. And apart from a couple of things that are broken that I can see, this really is in pretty good condition. I mean, even the wiring, you can see the wiring. It's all, there's a bit of insulting tape here and there, but you know, it's just good from what, you know, I haven't looked inside yet, so I can't tell. The battery even looks like the original battery. Got a free rag as well. It's a shame about that, but you know. I've got another rear light lens. Michele gave me another one. Nice old number plate. I've got a few of those already on my wall. I've got my old collection of number plates from the many Italian bikes I've had. But you know, all original paint. You know, it survived pretty well. Now, he was saying that it was kept near the seaside at one point, so obviously there's some corrosion. But come on, it's 1955, what's that, 60 years old, is that right? If not more. My maths is terrible, I've never been very good at numbers. Original key. What I do with these when I get them is, first of all, I always check for a spark. I can feel that the engine turns over. Compression doesn't feel brilliant, but to be honest, on these, I had one before, you know, they're not totally high compression. But we'll look at that. That's the gear change. Pretty filthy down there, so, but you know, I'll clean it all up. But what I do with these, I basically check for a spark, see if they spark, put some fuel in them, check if there's any oil in it, and literally just try and, you know, try and get it running for a couple of seconds. I do sometimes just swill out the oil tank, empty it first, swill it out with the paraffin, put fresh oil in, but it's worth looking first to see if I can just get a spark and so on. That's the spare wheel, which I'll have to take off. It's just on that little retainer there. And I'll just spray WD-40 on all the bits that I know I'm going to have to undo. There's the old CV horn. Then, you know, I'll clean it up and hopefully get it running. I love this. I'll have to look that one up. It doesn't look like Madonnina, it looks like a lighthouse. Anyway, I'll clean it up and look at the lettering properly. It's a bit hard to see, but it does actually say motoguzzi there. So yeah, spray some WD-40 on the bits that I know I'm going to have to be undoing. Then, you know, leave it for a few hours before I start to do much else on it. But yeah, I'm pleased, I think, for the money that I paid for it. It's good. And, you know, I just enjoy resuscitating these things, you know. I know Italian motorcycles, listen, it's a big world. There are some, you know, motorcycles, Ducatis, bevel Ducatis, MV Augustas and stuff, you know, they're worth tens and tens of thousands of pounds, but this is the other end of it. And, you know, I personally find this kind of more interesting. Yeah, I've got other bigger bikes. That's my T3 California there. I've actually just finished rebuilding the engine on that completely because it had the original chrome balls. But that's another matter. This is my 1959 motoguzzi Lordler, again completely unrestored. Just how I like them. So next job is get the old battery out. You know, I could probably keep the case on that and maybe, you know, hollow it out and put a new modern battery in there. Just gonna, I've put some WD-40 on already. Unfortunately, the little red positive, the little bit of plastic that was on the battery snapped off. Well, you know, it's old bits of plastic. There's a kind of plastic black nut on the negative as well. It's cool because it shows you obviously positive and negative, but you know, these are old bits of plastic. Always try and be gentle with stuff, but sometimes, you know, things just come off. There's not much you can do about it. The wiring looks really good, and the fact it's all cut, you know, all marked in the right place. The seat looks good as well, underneath the seat. You always find rags under these things. And I know it sounds silly, but I just seem like the smell of this stuff, you know, like the smell of an old rag on an old bike that's been there for probably, you know, decades. I mean, like I said before, the paperwork for this bike says it was cancelled from the Italian system, the PRA or PRA as they call it, the equivalent to our British DVLA. You know, it suggests that this bike hasn't been ridden for possibly 40 years, you know, 40, 45 years. It's very possible because it wasn't riding in 1988 because it was cancelled. So who knows? Who knows when it was last used? It was obviously loved, and then, you know, people didn't pay their taxes, and initially the way it used to work, if you didn't pay your taxes, they would just literally just cancel your bike from the system. So to get it back on, you just have to pay lots of money. And it would seem to me the owner of this bike, or, you know, maybe he was too old, or maybe he died, or whatever reasons, didn't pay the taxes, so it was cancelled. It was cancellato, or demolito as they say in Italian. Literally cancelled from the Italian system. And if you wanted to ride it again, I don't know if you had to re-register it, but you know, in one respect, the fact that these bikes used to get cancelled from the Italian system has been good for, you know, people into Italian bikes across the world, because I remember I was living in Italy 20 years ago, but I remember even before that, when I was living in Italy in 1992, 93, I was there for a year. And, you know, bike GUZZIs, you know, bikes were being sold for virtually just scrap value. The reason being is they couldn't be put back on the road because the rules and the regulations in Italy, the bureaucracy, which is very famous, that's what happened. You couldn't put a bike back on the road. So people would literally just buy stuff cheap. I used to go to the kind of swap meets over there, the Mostra Scambio, and you'd see stuff for 40, 50 quid. I remember buying a Lodler, a GUZZI Lodler 235, utterly original condition. I think I paid 50 quid for it. Lambrettas, scooters, you know, they were just getting rid of it. Now things have changed in Italy, and now there's, you know, there's more recognition for, you know, their historic motorcycle heritage. And I think now, you know, it's a lot easier to get old bikes that have been sitting in a barn or a shed for 40, 30 years. You can get them back on the road. Rightly so, you know, rightly so. But it has meant that people, you know, I think especially if you live in Germany in those days, you know, probably in the 70s and 80s, you could really just kind of fill your van with like all kinds of stuff, you know, and really buy it very cheaply. Right, I'll get the battery off. So I've got the battery out, and Turns out it's a Tudor. I've come across Tudor batteries in Italy quite a few times. It's a nice old case. I think I'll probably empty it and put something else in it. And Tudor is a very old brand. I think I read once, I think it was first set up in Germany by somebody from Luxembourg, but they had a factory near Genova. So yeah, been around Italy for over 100 years. That's the state of it. Not really good, but a nice case. I will, just for a laugh, just see if it's got any charge in it. That said, I can't remember which is positive and which is negative. Well, not that it'll make any difference because I don't think there'll be any charge. No. Try it the other way around just in case. Oh look, 7 millivolts. Well, I don't think I'll be charging it up and trying to use it. Anyway, it's a nice case. The other one's charging over there. So as soon as that's done, I'll hook it up. See if we can get a spark. Okay, so I've cleaned up these contacts here. And I've put in a 6-volt battery because it's a 6-volt negative earth machine that's off my GUZZI Lodler, so I know it's good, and I've charged it up a bit as well. So you know, the original wiring goes right on. It's really good, fits in really well. So I've connected it all up and I'm going to see if there's any life. It's at the back, the bulb is missing. It's one of those little festoon ones. I'll probably have one somewhere. And I haven't normally, well, I haven't done it yet, but normally I'll, go in the headlamp and clean up all the connections, all the electric connections, because there's a lot going on in the headlamp. And I would imagine that there's quite a bit of corrosion and stuff, and a lot of the contacts need cleaning. So this is the key, the original Galletto key, a bit like the one from my Lodler. And from what I've seen so far, this is a CEV, or CEV as they say in Italy, a CEV system on this Galletto. In the past, on these kind of bikes from the 40s, 50s in Italy, you find often that the electrical systems can either be made by Aprilia or by CEV, CEV, or by Carrello as well, which is another name of a company that used to make a lot of electrical bits and pieces for these bikes. And in fact, over there in the corner, I've got a 1950s Gilero, and that has a Carrello headlamp and a Carrello electrical system. So this is CEV, as you can see by the horn. And I think the switchgear, if I remember rightly, is also it's also CEV. On my GUZZI Lodler, it's Aprilia. Right, so I'm going to put the key in, press the key and see if anything happens. I don't know what I'm expecting to happen. Well, not much. I'll twist it. Ah! Luce. Abbiamo luce. We've got a bulb that works. Well, that's pretty good. And it's nice when you plug in the battery and the bulb starts to work straight away. Who knows how long they've been in there. Let's turn it the other way. Nothing. Okay. So if I put the bulb back on, no horn, neither connectors. I'll just try and switch the high-low beam. No, nothing. Okay. Okay, so I've taken the spare wheel off, it came off very easily. It looks to be in good nick, but I think, as I've said before, these early Brownies are very prone to cracking. You know, when I clean this up, I'll find out exactly what the state it's in. But generally, for now, it doesn't look too bad. Like that, I can get proper access to the motor, and there it is. It's filthy. It's absolutely filthy. You got the cart, that's the fuel hose, which obviously is completely gone. That's the carburetor. That's going to be, I think, an MA18 Del Auto. That's the engine, overhead valve, single cylinder, flat single, as most Guzzis were. Well, that's an overstatement. Most Guzzis sort of up until this era, until they brought the V-twins out. But yeah, it's filthy. There's the HT lead. Just go around the other side. Doesn't even want to come off. Maybe it unscrews. Oh, there we go. It's a nice old period piece. Is it the original one? Who knows? What's that say on there? Can't tell. Can't really get in there with the phone, but there's the plug. I'll spray some WD-40 over the plug before I attempt to take it out. These are the little covers, of course, to adjust the tappets, the valves. The valve springs are in there. But yeah, it's filthy, so I'm just going to slather it with some degreasant. There's the bottom of the fuel tap just there, and I hope it is not leaking, because I know for a fact that they're a nightmare to change. You know, what I don't want to do is have to take the engine out, because it's just a lot of work, you know, and I repeat, I'm not restoring this bike. I just want to recommission it and get it running, because that's what my enjoyment is. I don't enjoy restoring things. I just like resuscitating them. I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but people say motor archaeology, but I just love getting something like this that just doesn't work and just trying to make it work, really. So just have a quick look underneath here. So you can see underneath it's a kind of, you know, like pretty simple chassis. Then with all the bodywork, the enclosed bodywork above it. Here's the exhaust, looks to be all right. And yeah, it's meant to be kind of box section, stuff for clearance. Centre stand. There's the silencer. Looks all right as well. No holes that I can see. Pretty good. That's the drain for the oil, which I will be no doubt doing at some point. But really what I'm going to do is just really clean it. Really just get, you know, I've got some good degreasant. I'm just going to spray it all on and let it sit there and get as much mud off as possible before I start messing around with the engine, or, you know, I've got to get the carb out, obviously clean the carb out. But anyway, first thing to do is once the battery's charged, to see if there's any spark. And it'd be great if there is. Okay, so next job is see if it's going to spark. Now I can't film this and hold the plug and the HC lead with a pair of pliers all at the same time, because I'm going to have to push the kickstart with my other arm. I can't do it all at one go and film. I'm hoping that will be enough earth contact just there on the frame, but it may not be. So put the ignition key in. And let's see if anything happens. Well, I think that was a spark. Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. Look at that. massive spark as well. It may not be perfectly blue colour, but clearly it's sparking, so that's great news. The coil is found. I'm just going to take the ignition key out. The coil is here. Don't know, it looks like a kind of something from the old, well, if you're in Britain, the old GPO. It reminds me of some old telephone extension box from the old post office that you used to get in the house. For now, I'm not going to touch it, I'm just going to leave it. So that runs down the side through into the engine bay. It's a shame it's obviously the original rubber grommet, and it's obviously perished. That said, the rubber around the air filter is really good nick, so don't need 2 types of rubber. Right, I think next job, in that case that I know it sparks, is to start to clean some of this up, and then obviously take the carb apart, clean it all out, put some fuel in, check the oil, everything else, and just see, you know, if it'll run just for a couple of seconds.